The dawn came thin and silver over West Haven Harbor, slicing through the fog that clung to the old shipyard. The clang of metal and the low hum of engines blended with the cry of gulls, a soundtrack for the forgotten. Thomas Everett, broad-shouldered, weathered, and silent, wiped the grease from his hands and watched his daughter Lana carry her cello across the dock. 16 years of quiet work had built this fragile piece. 16 years of pretending the past didn't breathe beneath his skin. "Dad, you'll come to the base tomorrow, right?" she asked, voice hopeful but careful. He hesitated, just long enough for the wind to catch the word base and twist it into something heavier. "Yeah," he said finally, forcing a smile. "I'll be there." By noon, the Navy banners were already hanging downtown, celebrating the heroes everyone remembered. Thomas wasn't one of them. Not anymore. But tomorrow, in a hangar filled with brass and ceremony, a single question would crack the silence he'd built, and expose the ghost the Navy had tried to forget. What happens when the man they erased walks back into the light? Stay until the end. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more stories of truth, courage, and redemption. Under the glare of the noon sun, Hangar 4 shimmered like a cathedral of steel and pride. Rows of white uniforms gleamed under floodlights. Banners hung high, rippling gently in the air stirred by the sea. The orchestra's instruments gleamed on stage, ready to fill the silence with beauty. Thomas Everett stood near the back, hands in his pockets, his shoulders squared like a man who had learned to survive under scrutiny. He told himself he was only there for his daughter, only to watch her play. But the rhythm of boots on concrete, the distant scent of oil and brass, it all whispered memories he'd buried too deep to name. "Dad," Lana said softly, clutching her cello. "You sure you're okay?" He forced a smile. "Play your best, sweetheart. That's all that matters." But as she walked toward the stage, he caught sight of a woman in the front row. Tall, immaculate, her uniform a statement of power. Admiral Rhea Blackwood. The name alone stirred something sharp in his chest. He hadn't heard it spoken aloud in 16 years, but some ghosts never needed invitations to return. When the orchestra began, the sound rose like light breaking through fog. Lana's solo swept through the hangar, delicate and aching, each note carrying more truth than words ever could. The crowd fell still. Even the Admiral leaned forward slightly, as though pulled by something she didn't understand. And when the final chord faded, applause thundered. Cameras flashed. The Admiral stood, smiling wide for the audience. Then her gaze landed on Thomas. "You served, didn't you?" she said, stepping closer, her tone almost playful. "Let me guess, mechanic. Supply." A few officers chuckled. The laughter spread like static. Thomas didn't move. Didn't blink. The air shifted. "What was your call sign, hero?" she pressed, her smile sharpened to a blade. Thomas met her eyes. "Iron Ghost." Silence fell like a hammer. One officer's glass slipped and shattered. The sound ricocheted through the hangar. Faces turned. Shoulders stiffened. Commander Sable, standing to the side, froze mid-step. Even the Admiral's confident smile cracked at the edges. The name wasn't supposed to exist anymore. It belonged to missions whispered about in classified briefings, the kind that never made it to press releases or medals. "You're mistaken," Blackwood said, voice suddenly thin. Sable stepped forward. "Admiral, permission to verify." Thomas reached into his jacket and handed her a coin. Smooth, scarred, worn by time. Sable's fingers trembled as she turned it over. Her breath caught. "It's him." Whispers broke like surf across the crowd. Phones buzzed. Veterans in the front row stood without thinking. And in that instant, the power in the room shifted. Not with noise, but with quiet recognition. Rhea Blackwood's authority, polished by years of ceremony, faltered beneath the weight of truth. Thomas didn't speak. He didn't need to. Lana stood at the edge of the stage, eyes wide, realizing her father wasn't just a man who fixed boats. He was something far greater and far more haunted. That night, the harbor felt different. The air was heavy, electric. Thomas sat alone in his workshop, the old flag and a metal box spread open before him. His daughter's music still echoed in his mind. 16 years ago he'd made a choice, one that saved 4 children but cost 3 good men their lives. The mission had gone wrong because someone higher up had gambled on ambition over lives. He'd carried the silence ever since. But now the past was awake, and it wanted justice. Lana entered quietly, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "Dad, everyone's talking. Who were you back then?" Thomas looked at her, eyes lined with years of restraint. "A soldier who didn't listen to orders, and did the right thing anyway." Over the next days, quiet waves turned to storms. Investigators appeared at the boatyard. Navy NCS Inspector General. Commander Sable led them. They spoke to Thomas for hours. No microphones, no cameras, just facts. He laid it all out. Coordinates, call signs, ambush routes, the faces of men who never made it home. And slowly, the truth unfolded. Rhea Blackwood had known. She'd seen the compromised data, the warnings about the exfil route. She'd ignored them. She wanted a headline, a captured target, a shining promotion. When it all collapsed, she rewrote the report, buried the failures, and pinned the blame on ghosts who couldn't speak. By the 5th day, whispers became news. "Admiral under review," the headlines read. But inside the Navy walls, something deeper was stirring. Men and women comparing notes, digging up files, cross-checking timelines. One by one, the buried truths rose to the surface. At West Haven High, Lana's name spread through hallways like wildfire. Some kids stared, some whispered, but she walked taller now. Her father wasn't just a mechanic. He was Iron Ghost, the man who did what command wouldn't. And when her music teacher placed a hand on her shoulder saying, "Your father changed more than he knows," she finally smiled. Meanwhile, Rhea Blackwood's office became a fortress of silence. Reporters camped outside the gates. Her aides avoided eye contact. The woman who had commanded rooms with ease now found them shrinking away. She called meeting after meeting, tried to spin the narrative, until a single line in the investigation report shattered her composure. Direct operational negligence resulting in preventable casualties. In Ottawa, a closed-door hearing convened. Thomas walked into the chamber in plain clothes, flanked by 2 of his surviving teammates, Weston and Archer. Time had carved them differently, but the brotherhood hadn't faded. The air was thick with protocol, yet when Thomas sat down, the weight in the room changed. He didn't posture or plead. He simply spoke. "I made a call when the chain of command failed," he said evenly. "And for 16 years that silence belonged to me. It doesn't anymore." The panel listened in uneasy stillness. Evidence played on screens. Radio logs, tactical maps, encrypted transmissions. Every detail pointed the same way. Rhea Blackwood had known. Her silence had cost lives. When she entered to testify, the room's temperature dropped. Her voice was steady at first, trained, political. But when confronted with the recovered logs bearing her authorization codes, something inside her broke. The confidence drained from her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to go like that," she whispered, the sentence crumbling midair. Outside, Lana waited in the corridor, clutching her cello case like a talisman. She heard the muffled voices, the clatter of heels, the rise and fall of emotion. When her father emerged hours later, she didn't need to ask. His face said enough, tired but lighter than it had been in years. 2 days later, headlines exploded across every platform. Admiral Blackwood dishonorably discharged following investigation. Operation Damascus Heroes cleared. The Navy held a private ceremony. No fanfare, no cameras. Just folded flags, medals, and silence that finally meant peace. Thomas stood beside the families of the fallen, his daughter at his side. When her turn came, Lana raised her bow and played the same adagio she'd performed at the hangar. This time the notes carried something new, healing. Reporters later tried to corner Rhea outside her residence. Her face, once sharp with command, now looked hollow, stripped of the armor ambition had built. "Do you have anything to say to the families?" one asked. She didn't answer. Just walked away into the waiting car, her career, her image, her legacy, all gone. Back in West Haven, the sun dipped low over the harbor. The sound of tools, laughter, and the hum of life returned to the boatyard. Thomas stood by the pier, watching Lana rehearse, her music drifting across the water. Commander Sable joined him quietly, holding a folder. "You could come back, you know. Training, consulting. The Navy would listen now." He smiled faintly. They listened when it mattered. Sable looked toward the horizon. "She destroyed herself trying to bury you." Thomas nodded. "That's the thing about truth. It doesn't stay buried." Behind them, Lana struck the final note of her piece, a sound full of hope and resilience. The harbor lights blinked on, one by one, like stars finding their place again. And as the music faded, Thomas turned to the open sea, the ghosts finally quiet. But far across the coast, Rhea Blackwood sat alone in a small office stripped of medals and rank. A single newspaper lay on her desk. The headline read, "Iron Ghost Redeemed." Her hands trembled as she folded it, the weight of her decisions finally real. Justice had come, not with vengeance, but with truth that refused to die. And somewhere in the quiet of West Haven, a father and daughter stood together by the water, proof that courage doesn't roar, it endures. The morning light over West Haven came soft and golden, glinting off the calm harbor water. Thomas Everett stood by the pier with his hands resting on the railing, watching his daughter tune her cello nearby. For the first time in years, there was no weight pressing on his chest, only the quiet rhythm of waves and the faint sound of music warming the air. He had spent 16 years trying to live unseen, believing peace meant staying silent. But truth, he realized, wasn't a storm to hide from. It was the wind that cleared the fog. Somewhere out there, a woman who once wore power like armor was facing the consequences of the lies she built. Yet Thomas felt no triumph, only a steady sense of balance returning to the world. Lana finished her piece, the last note lingering like a promise. She looked at him and smiled. "You're different now," she said. He nodded, eyes still on the horizon. "No," he answered softly. "I'm finally myself." The gulls wheeled overhead. The harbor came alive with the hum of new beginnings. And as the tide moved in, Thomas knew the ghosts of the past had finally drifted out to sea. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales, where stories of truth, courage, and second chances find their voice.